were honored in our first year. We honored Millicent Shin, Frances Roby, and Viola Bly. This is the official launching of the booklet. Tri-City Women of Influence Historical Coloring Book, Volume 1. It includes a black lined drawing of 24 women and a short summary that highlight their accomplishments. And here's the museum. This is a picture of the book, or it is the book. Excuse me. Where am I here? The museum, okay. The museum president, Kelsey Camello, was in support, so I reached out to the presidents of the League of Women Voters, Saida Rejma Inamdar, and she's here, there she is, waving, and AAUW's president at the time, Kathy McDonald, and she's the co-host today, and Becky Denovan with AAUW. They were enthusiastic about the project and helped from the beginning to select and research the background of the women selected. Those who helped with research for the booklet included the following: Becky again, Saida Rejma Inamdar, Kathy McDonald, myself, Kelsey Camello, Diane Holmes, Patty Lacey, and Marjorie Bagley. Also, a special thanks to the artist, Jeff Schinkel, who volunteered his time for the layout and design and really made the book a reality. And if she's here, I would like also to acknowledge the new president of AAUW, Kathy Garfinkel. Our criteria for selecting the first candidates of the booklet were that they were deceased, that they lived in the Tri-City area, that they contributed to their community. And it was difficult to balance who we included in the first edition. We wanted to have women from different ethnicities, different economic backgrounds, who lived in different periods and eras, and who came from the 3 Tri-Cities, Fremont, Newark, and Union City. So the people featured today were major influencing people from those 3 cities. I would also like to recognize that the oldest women's group in the area that has always supported community work and the recognition of women, the Country Club of Washington Township Women's Club. Many of the women in this booklet were also members of this organization of movers and shakers. The president of the organization is here, Mitchie Yee. Can you show us Mitchie? Welcome, Mitchie. In the introduction of the booklet, it best summarizes our intent with the book and our presentation. We have written, her story is often lost in history, but the Tri-Cities has a legacy of active, passionate women who have dedicated their time and energies to improving the lives of others. This thought-provoking booklet is just the beginning of our exploration of her stories. In celebration of the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, because we intended this in 2020, and for Women's History Months, we have collaborated to introduce you to some of those local influential women. Hopefully, this is the first in a series of booklets celebrating the women of our community. Please support the ongoing work to produce future volumes by purchasing printed copies of the booklet through the Washington Township Museum of Local History, through our website, or in person when we open, hopefully in June. Also, you can, if you want to add information or suggestions for future editions, just email us to info@museumoflocalhistory.org. So let's begin the presentation. Because of limited time, each presentation will be limited to 10 minutes. including a 5-minute videotaped summary of each person. So the first person is presented by Patty Lacey, and she presented Mattie Rousseau. So could you start the video of Mattie, please? Here we go.
Give me 1 second. I'm going to bring it up and then share just that application. All right, that's up and running. Share screen. Oh. Hold on a second. I'm trying to figure out why it won't let me share just that application, but not my desktop. Well, we'll just do desktop. And let's bring up the application and start.
I can't hear it.
All right, let me see about change. I'm on headsets. Let me change the audio. All right. Get into Zoom. Nope, don't want that. Mute, unmute. All right. All right, let's just try this. Can you still hear me, everyone?
Yes, we're here.
Great. Okay. Let me go ahead and play it and make sure. Let's see if we can hear. I'm going to start a bit back. Hopefully, you can hear the audio. Audio?
Yeah.
On May 8, 29, Mattie F. Rousseau was born in Austin, Texas, and her education included business school. She married an active duty member of the Air Force, Gentry Rousseau Jr., and, as is typical of a military family, they subsequently lived in many places in the United States and in Germany. The pair started a family during their time with the Air Force, eventually having 4 children, 1 son, Gentry, and 3 daughters, Evelyn, Brenda, and Deborah. Mattie adapting with each move to make a home for her growing family. In 1969, at the age of 40, Mattie and her family arrived in Union City, California. As the children settled into the local schools, Mattie immediately got to know her neighbors and set out to be a help to her community. She was energetic, dedicated, and always willing to work. Mattie started attending city council meetings and soon became entrenched in local politics. Her daughter, Debbie, remembers that when her mother had election yard signs displayed, the neighbors, who respected her opinions and knowledge, would come over and ask, "So, this is who we are voting for?" Mattie became a poll worker and worked for every election from the 1970s until 2000. Besides working on a number of campaigns, Mattie cared about education. In 2011, she was one of the sponsors for Measure B, a parcel tax for the New Haven Unified School District. Mattie also worked as a member of the Union City Parks and Recreation Commission, where she served for 7 years. She followed this by serving on the Union City Planning Commission, where, after 14 years, she became the commissioner with the longest time in service. In 1970, Mattie was appointed to serve on a citizens watchdog group, the Alameda County Grand Jury, and the Alameda County Environmental Management Program. "It's in the blood," Mattie said of her community work. Well, Mattie also dedicated her time to various volunteer organizations. In 2000, Mattie worked on the task force that brought back the Union City Fire Department. She also served on the fireworks task force, a group that aided 28 local nonprofits with their fundraising efforts through the sale of fireworks each 4th of July. This included the Union City Lions Club, of which she was an active member. Mattie was a voice for Union City. Mattie worked for the Union City Police Department until 1980. She then subsequently worked for BART until her retirement in 1994. On August 17th, 2014, at the age of 85, Mattie passed away in Union City. Mattie was bold in her quest to learn and be heard. She was a lifelong learner and an avid reader, and was not afraid to ask questions, stand up, show up, and speak out on issues that mattered to her. She juggled family, work, and community service. Because of these strong aspects of her personality, combined with her knowledge on local subjects and her commitment to doing the homework before every meeting she attended, Mattie gained and retained throughout her life the respect of her community. But Mattie was more than a force of community energy. She balanced it by being a mother and enjoying bowling, traveling, bus trips, and gardening, and it was all blessed by the power of the Spirit. Through her service of over 40 years, Mattie Russo made a positive impact on Union City and its residents. Today, we recall her contributions and her life with pride.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Brenda and Evelyn, I would like, do you have anything to say or about your mother? Can you unmute?
Yes, I did. I'll speak for both of us. That
Okay.
was beautiful. Thank you so much. Of course, there's tears in my eyes. My mother was a go-getter, and she was always out there standing up for her community and for our neighbors in the neighborhood. And I tell you, more times she used to have a seat in the garage, and as the cars would go by, they would stop and say, "Hey, Mattie, what's going on?" or "Tell us about the council meeting," or something like that. So she was definitely involved. She loved the work. She loved us. She always took care of us at home, but she had a good life, and she loved Union City, and just proud that she's in your book. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. That was very nice. I'm really glad. I'm glad that you joined us, and we were very happy to put together this short little video. It couldn't say enough, and Patty Lacey did a very nice job
She
of
did.
presenting.
She did. I love the pictures. I just
Oh,
love the
yeah, we
pictures.
got those from you, so thank you. Also, these are going to be put online at on our website and YouTube. So if you want to share the link to anyone, I'll definitely send you the information, and anybody can go on. All they have to do is put your mother's name in and YouTube, and it's going to come up. We haven't put it up yet. It'll be about a week before we put it up, but I wanted to make sure that this was the first presentation. So
Thank you so
thank
much.
you so much. And I'm so glad that we were able to get a hold of you.
Thank you, Patty. You did a very good job. It was beautiful. Thank
Yes.
you.
So thank you, everyone. The next presentation is by Marjorie Bagley. I don't know where Marjorie is, if you can see her, but she presented Winifred Bendel. Winifred, there's Marjorie. Winifred Bendel, we weren't able to get a hold of any family members, but we'll run the video about Winifred. It was a bit slow. I don't know if that can help or not. It's running slow here. I don't know if everybody else's is, but we'll do the best we can.
All right, I'll start the next one.
Okay, and I could still see people in the side. that's the way it will be, correct? Okay, that's great.
Wait,
Okay,
Right.
thank you very much. Here's
yeah,
Marjorie
unfortunately, yeah. Let me see if I can share just that application again. See here. Give me just 1 second. Share screen. Now let me share just that application. Share. And let me start.
Winifred Bendel was born in Alameda County in 1889. Winifred was 67 when she decided to run for the first city council. She was an educated woman of her time that was able to use her education, devotion to civic matters to become a part of a brand new city. All the while being a mother, running a home, and all that involves in a time when a woman's place was to be in the home. Her family lived in Piedmont. Her father was a rancher and her mother, Agnes, and her two brothers and a younger sister lived together. Their family seemed to be wealthy, and all their doings were reported in the Oakland Tribune through the years. That time, that was their Facebook and our Instagram. She went to Oakland High and the University of California and became a librarian. In 1919, at 30 years of age, she wrote
I lost audio.
as chief of the Dakota Fire Department. They had two children. Winifred was born in 1920 and Roland Jr. was born in 1924. She was very busy those days. She wrote for the Niles Weekly Register. She wrote various plays, silent movie scripts. She belonged to the Washington Township Women's Country Club. She was president from 1926 to 1928. She was also on the board of the Niles Free Library. During World War II, she was the farm home agent. For the Salvation Army, she was the secretary. Virginia Marriott, one of the members of the Washington Township Women's Country Club, said about her, "A very strong person, well-read, very dignified. She conducted herself in very ladylike manner." In 1909, Alvarado, Dakota, Warm Springs, Mission San Jose, Irvington, Centerville, and Niles were known as Washington Township. These communities had their own volunteer fire departments and Chamber of Commerce's. The Alameda County Board of Supervisors in Oakland served as their basic government. In 1950, many of the Chamber of Commerce's were worried about the economy of each town. Fear of annexation from Hayward or San Jose was upon them. A desire to preserve their way of life, plan development, zoning laws and taxes and government that would serve the needs of these communities. Alvarado and Dakota, they incorporated into Union City and Newark. She wrote the pamphlet, "Why Should Fremont Incorporate?" It was well received by all. In 1955, petitions to incorporate were successful. 17 people ran for the first city council, and Winifred put her name into the ring and became fifth. 1956, at the age of 67, she was the first woman on the first city council of the newly incorporated and the third largest city in square miles in California. Well, unfortunately, 2 years later in 1958, the honeymoon was really over. Two bond issues were on the ballot. The one to buy property, 12.3 acres for a civic center and a recreation area of 60 acres, it failed. The two new members of the council, Mr. Stedman and Mr. Cunningham, campaigned together against buying the property for the civic center and were pro-growth. Didn't care for the general plan or the new city manager, Robert Koop. Neither did Mrs. Bendel. They and Mrs. Bendel became the power on the council. She and Stedman and Cunningham did not like Robert F. Koop or his ideas, voting 3-2 on many issues that came before the council. Recall petitions for Stedman, Cunningham, and Bendel were started, but the two men had just been elected and couldn't be recalled, so Bendel was recalled. In 1981, she came back for the reenactment of the first city council swearing in of the 4 original council members. She was quoted as saying, "Well, when they saw the 3 of us who opposed putting City Hall where it is now, the powers that be decided they had to get rid of one of us. So they just had to get rid of me. That's just the way things work out." It took 20 years before Jan Stillwell was elected to the council in 1980. But through the years, many women have run for city council, and today we have a woman mayor. Her husband, Roland Bendel, passed in 1965. She remarried and became Winifred Bendel Stewart. She moved to Pleasanton, then Walnut Creek. She was widowed again in 1975. She lived to be 91 and attended Fremont's silver anniversary and offered a bit of advice. Elect councils that are really concerned with the needs of the city. It would be too bad if much of any council is elected just to exert political pressure. At 91, she still had her opinions and something to say.
Thank you very much. Winifred was quite a mover and shaker and very involved in the city and the forming of the city of Fremont. She was also involved in the publication of the history of Washington Township, its 2nd and its 3rd editions, through the Country Club of Washington Township, which from that book spun off to the Washington Township Historical Society. And so Marjorie, do you have anything that you would like to add about Winifred? We don't have any family today with her. She was, she died much earlier than the other people. Okay, Marjorie. It looks like she's having some trouble.
She needs to unmute.
Yeah. It looks like it's not working. So,
Okay, am I on mute now?
There you go.
yes, you are.
Okay, well, go on to the next people. Bye.
Okay. All right. Thank you,
Bye.
Marjorie. Thank you so much. Yeah, Winifred was that was very well done. And Winifred was quite a force in the area before Fremont became a city, before the other cities incorporated. And then not too long after that, after her husband died, she moved. So the 3rd one is Diane Holmes actually interviewed or presented Trina Maureen Ruano. And and her daughter Ruth is here today. And there's Ruth. So we're going to show this video, and then afterwards we'll talk a few minutes with Ruth. So you can go ahead and show this video. Thank you.
Give me 1 second to do the right sharing here. And now it doesn't. All right. Probably doesn't want to share just that. Give me 1 second. I'll have to show the whole desktop again, so you will see some people. And come on. Fortunately, I don't think I can. Let's see if I can shrink this. Aha, there we go.
Trina Maureen Ruano came from a very humble beginning, full of hardships and strife. She was an Ohlone woman, a proud, loving matriarch of Ohlone, Halkin, Saklan, Bay Miwok, and Plain Miwok. She was only 4'10" tall and very outspoken. When women got the right to vote, she never voted. However, she did explain politics to her children and family. She tirelessly advocated for the rights and recognition of Native ancestors and their history. She fought for the registration of tribe members with the Bureau of Indian Affairs in California, creating a documented record of Ohlone lineage. This is the first time this was done. She was an advocate for teaching about Native cultures in schools. Trina was proud of her culture and told her children to never forget that they were Native. Trina Marine Ruano was born in 1902 on a rancheria, which was a multi-ethnic Native settlement. Trina's mother, Avelina Cornates Marin, died in 1904, and her father, Rafael Marin, died in 1910. At only 8 years old, she was already an orphan. At this time, she was sent to St. Mary of the Palms Orphanage, run by the Dominican Sisters of Mission San Jose. There, she was made to give up her first language, which was Spanish, and speak only English. This little orphan has had her first language taken from her. Her brother Lucas was sent to a boys' orphanage in Ukiah. When Trina was 12, she left the orphanage with an 8th grade education, which would serve her very well during her lifetime. At about 12 years of age, Trina was reunited with her brother at a Washington Township ranch. He worked in the fields while she worked as a housekeeper, cook, and babysitter. After 6 years, Trina went to work for some high society people in San Leandro. There she worked for 7 years, doing the same type of humble work as she did on the ranch. Now Trina is 25 years old, and at this time she moved to Pismo Beach to work for a wealthy tobacco fortune heir. Here again, she is a housekeeper, maid, and babysitter. While there, she met her first husband, Charles Elston. Sadly, he died in a car accident soon after they were married. Trina, a young widow, went to Brentwood to live with her sister while she waited for the birth of her first child. After Dawn was born, Trina and baby Dawn went to Newark to live. Again, she worked as a housekeeper, this time for Ernest Thompson. He had 5 children. One of his children was very disabled. They married in 1933. She was 31, he was 58. They both loved children, and they had 3 children of their own, Faye, Ruth, and Lola. Mr. Thompson died in 1939. Trina had been widowed twice, and she was in her middle 30s. She then married Mr. Ruano in 1940. The 3 girls called him Daddy Joe. Trina and Mr. Ruano had 4 more children. When Trina moved to Newark, she tried to reclaim fragments of her earlier life. She relearned her first language, Spanish. On her children's birth certificate, she stated that she was Indian. While living in Newark, the farmers called the 3 little girls 3 little Indian girls, and Trina was proud of that distinction. Trina had a close relationship with other Native people and developed a deep pride in her heritage and shared that with her community. She learned about the Ohlones and their ways of life. Even though she was orphaned at a young age, she carried on the most important traditions of resourcefulness, drive, respect for living beings, respect for the earth, and most of all, pride in her heritage. As an educator, I've been profoundly touched by Trina's life and all that she accomplished. Her life was hard, but it was also full of love for her family, for her work, and for her Native people.
There we go. those are our three presentations. I am at the museum with Ruth, and she's in the other room. So I'm going to go over there and turn on her mic so that she can tell us a little bit about her mother. Okay, Ruth.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can you tell us a little bit, well, your reaction and something about your mother?
Everybody can hear me?
I think so. Go ahead and start speaking.
Okay,
I'll go
can
listen.
you can? Okay, my name is Ruth Orta. And, Trina was my mom. There was 8 of us kids. She had 8 of us. The Ohlones are still here. We never left. My mom was very, very proud of who she was. And I'm the oldest of her girls, and I was her shadow, and I'm not very much taller than her. I think maybe a couple inches. And so anyway, I have a huge family. I had 7 children. My oldest daughter is going to be 70 in May. I am going to be 87 in August. I was born in Newark on Sycamore Street in a house, August the 20th, 1934. I attended school in Centerville though, which is Fremont now. Anyway, I have 17 grandchildren. I have 38 great-grandchildren, and I have 14 great-greats. So I have 5 generations with myself. So like I said, the Ohlones are here and we're never leaving. So mom worked hard. She was a cook and a babysitter and a housekeeper. She was an awesome cook because she cooked for the wealthy people that had money to buy food. We ate regular food, but it was all fresh from the fields and her gardens because we all worked in the fields with my mom growing up. As I said, I went to school in Centerville. I started in Newark, and then mom switched us to Centerville because she wanted to see if they taught better, because she was taught by the Dominican sisters. My mom had a 12th grade education, but she only went to school until she was 12. She was one awesome lady. She was independent, and she worked right along with the men in the fields with us kids. And we picked apricots, cherries, cut apricots, prunes in Warm Springs. We did the whole thing. My dad died when I was 5, and my mom married my stepdad, who raised us since I was 6 years old. I was fortunate to learn Spanish from my stepdad. And now in my old age, I'm learning Chocheño, which was the native language of our original people. And mom called us Indians because that's what, like, I'll tell you how my mom described it. She said the people called us Indians, but we're not from India. We're not Indians. But the government loves it because then that way they came, took our country, all the people that conquered us here, and they claimed that we came from somewhere else. We didn't. Our people were here since Creator put us here. So she explained it to me because I asked her when I was a child, how come they call us Indians, Mom? I loved history and I used to read history books. And she said that was because they didn't know what to call us. And then Columbus came along and we didn't know nothing about this story, and neither did she. She said, so the government loved that we were called Indians because that meant that they had the land free to take. So, and she said, that's how she described the conquering of this part of the world. But lo and behold, her 8 kids, we all claim who we are. We're indigenous natives from this part of the world. And this is when and to let everybody know, my mother's people are still here because I am still here. So we've never left our homeland. I've never left this part of, we've been in Alameda County for thousands of years. So now in my old age, I speak with all the natives. One of my cousins is very active, and I speak to the people in the schools gatherings and things, and worked claiming the burial sites from all over. And one of my daughters, my oldest daughter, works with the archaeologists on preserving the burials and protecting them. So Mom is gone, but she was one awesome woman. She was educated, she was loving, she was caring, and her family was #1 with her, and our belief in Creator. So we believe, and she believed in Jesus Christ, because when she was taught in the missions, in the mission San Jose in the orphanage, she knew that the Creator had Jesus put here because people are to wake people up again. And she had that belief. All people were God's children and God was Creator. So that's how they taught us.
Well, thank you very much. And actually, she instilled in you, even though she didn't have, you had mentioned this before, even though she didn't have the Native American background.
We're not
much.
Native American.
No.
We're Native
Native
Indigenous people.
Native Indigenous people. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm here to teach everybody.
So she had the pride in her heritage.
Yes, she did.
She
And
brought it to
connection to the part of world where we came from.
Exactly.
And she always told people. In fact, when we were little kids, the Portuguese people were a lot of Portuguese people here, Swiss people, all from all over. And the Portuguese friends that Mom had in Newark called us the 3 little Indian girls. And one of my sisters took after my dad. In fact, she had her shop in Centerville and the beauty shop, and it was Lola's Beauty Salon. And she was blonde.
Okay.
And we were 3 little Indian girls. Ended up 4 girls and 4 boys.
Perfect. Well, Ruth, thank you so much. I'm going to run over into the other, and I'm going to ask if any other people have questions or comments about our presentations.
Okay.
And I'll keep you unmuted if you want to
Okay,
say
good. Because anybody can ask me anything.
I just have a
Ruth,
quick.
there was a question in the chat that I'd like to read. Jane Miller has asked that perhaps you could speak a little bit of your native language so we can hear what it sounds like. Would you be willing to do that?
Not really, because I need my little pamphlet in front of me because I'm learning. They call the little tribe that I have with my family is Himren, and that is a name connected with a union or a community of people. And I worked union shops. In fact, I worked for 54 years of my life. My last job was in San Jose for VTA, and I was a train operator when I retired at 70. So anyway, I was interested in having something named after people that do things, that work, because my mom was a worker, I was a worker. So I named it Himren, which means a union of people or a community. So that I know the word is a Miwok word, because we also have Miwok in the blood. Yes, I see your hand.
Thank you. Since so much of the Ohlone was stamped out by the people who came to this land, tell us please how they're putting together the language, because so much of the language was lost.
Okay, so let me tell you too, the history of the Native people from here, we weren't all stamped out. That was their intention.
Right, you're right.
But a lot of them left, and a lot of them learned language from other natives in California. But for us to learn the language, there's somebody from one of the guys that worked at Berkeley. I think he was anthropologist and I don't know what else. And his name was, oh God, I can't think of it. And anyway, he recorded a native from the area, Jose Guzman, in the 1920s. So the recording is in Berkeley, and that's where they got the basic language from the Native people that lived in this part of the world, in Alameda County. or, San Francisco Bay Area, because they didn't call it that because it was Native people. They had their own name for our part of the world, but we are actually in the San Francisco Bay Area and Alameda County, Contra Costa County. Part of us were because they lived all over. So, and the question was, how did we learn it? Other natives in California, you would not know this, but they have their language. The Yokuts, the Miwoks, the Pomos, southern below Carmel and through there, Southern California, Northern California. And then they took the language from the recorded one on the cylinder by this gentleman that interviewed Jose Guzman. And from there, they connected the language with other Native people, and that's how we got it. And the Miwoks still have their language. The Pomos still have their language, their original language. The natives from south of us also and east of us have their languages. So they connected the language on the cylinder to the ones from around. So that's how they know the language from our people. We didn't learn it. We didn't even learn how our people lived. Neither did my mother. She knew people that were her relatives that still had their customs, but not the language anymore. Because when they conquered this part of the world, the Spanish did most of the damage first on our side on the West Coast. And then the Caucasian people from the East did the other. So they took most of the language. And that's how it is. Creator is not going to let us not have part of our history because of the people, how they live. They took care of all that. So
Thank you, Ruth. And sometime in the future, we probably will have you as a presenter for one of our talks, and I'm looking forward to that.
to it.
Yeah,
I
we
love
will do that.
Yeah.
We definitely do that.
Yeah. And anybody that wants to call me or talk to me, just give me a buzz and get my number, and I'll go and do whatever you need for whatever you people have that you want people to learn about our history.
We're going to be interviewing you also, and that will be part of one of our projects. So I look forward to that. Are there any other questions or comments, of the three people that we presented? Yes, Patty Lacey, on mute.
Yeah, I was pressing the wrong unmute button. It was interesting. My mother went to the same school that Ruth's mother did, except by the time my mother went, it was in Sarah Center for Girls.
Yes.
But the building it was taught by the Dominican nuns.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see it through the history. And
Yeah.
It became Ohlone College.
I'm sorry?
It was Ohlone College for many years.
Yeah. And then they moved up the hill and down the hill. So it's nice that the buildings all stayed the same for education. And Ruth, do you have a relative named Roberta or Berta Lacey?
I sure do.
Oh, good. I've met you. Okay, she's my sister-in-law.
Oh, who are you married to?
Alan.
Oh.
Alan Lacey. He passed away a few years ago. Yeah. And Bert is married to Brian, his twin brother.
Yes, and he now has all Parkinson's.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
That's a small world, isn't it?
I need to get your phone number so we can chat offline, okay?
Hey, all right.
Thank you. Yes, Reshma. On mute. Can you unmute?
Yeah, sorry. I wanted to ask, I think Brenda, about did your mom also pass along her love for, sort of the political activism type of thing for all the kids? Or were you guys sort of reacted and said, no, none of this for us?
On mute, please, Brenda. Okay.
Well, we did, she did pass it along because before the pandemic, I did work in the polls for the voting. I voted in every election, so she instilled that in us every election since I was 18. And I'm
wow.
I am now. But yes, she did. And then when I was working, I was very instrumental in helping the union in Cupertino where I worked. So, and then we would always come over if she said she needed some help with something, we would help her. You know, we couldn't say no to our mother. So, yes, she did instill that in us. And I'm really glad that she did. And I was a history major, so maybe that
Oh, yes.
I looked up to her with her involvement, you know, and always telling us, get involved, talk, bring things up, just don't take it. So yeah, she did.
So what, was she a member of the League of Women Voters?
I know that she went to meetings and things like that. I'm not sure if she was actually a member. She was in the Lioness, and so, and then
Oh, okay.
the political arena where she would help with the campaigns.
I think that was a problem. The thing with being on the league board is you kind of have to keep a low profile on being on campaigns. So thank you for sharing.
Yes, thank you. That was very nice. Are there any other questions? I can't see everybody, and some people are not visible, so you could put it in chat if you have questions too. Well, it looks like that's where we actually are just in time. We've done our presentations. Like I said, in about a week, we're going to have these 3 videos up on our website. It'll be in our website, but it'll also be linked to our Facebook and to we have an account. So yes, Reshma?
There was a question here by Seal. Is it, sorry if I'm mispronouncing. It says, my understanding is Ohlone is more a language and not really a tribal name or a group of tribes. Thus, people are not Ohlone per se. Is that correct?
Can I say something about that?
Yes.
I discovered I was named Ohlone when they named the Ohlone College.
Oh.
Ohlone was never in anything that we did. So how they found that the Ohlone was at some, I think on the, in Santa Clara County or San Mateo County. There was one place near the shoreline, I guess, by the beach in Half Moon Bay or out in that area. And they discovered the name Ohlone on one of the, I guess, where they used to mark things in the rock. And that's how, and then there's a school because when I drove bus for Santa Clara County Transit before the train, there was Ohlone Street. And I thought that was the first time I've ever seen this, because that was back in the, 70s. And so I didn't know. Yeah. So that's what
I think the rest of the comment was, she says, instead they have a heritage of Miwok and others, and apologies in advance if I'm misspelling. Miwok.
Yeah, I have in my bloodline, I have Bay Miwok and Plains Miwok. Sakana Alkeen, that's from the Hayward, all Alameda County. But the other is, but they didn't have, people weren't, the area wasn't named all that. It's when the conquering came and all the Caucasian people and all the Spanish people came. Then they put the cities and names to, and then California being the last state, you know, to go into the Union, just about, that this was the one that mostly, all the native stuff, we didn't know we were. My mom called us the Digger tribe when she was doing all the registering of the family, her family and all her relatives to sign up with the state of California in the 40s and 50s. Is when, actually late 30s, 40s and 50s, my mom started to get involved on her own. When we learned how to drive early, so we took her. She didn't drive. And so anyway, when she did that, she had to have a tribe name. So she used to work, her dad used to work, her Spanish father, he worked for Mr. Wabb, Charlie Wabb in Livermore. His son later on had a real estate business here on Mission Boulevard, Wabb. That was the son of the man that hired my grandfather on his ranch. So mom went to go see Mr. Wobb because he knew her mother and father, and to get passport made for her because she wanted to travel down to Mexico. And so anyway, and then she wanted to also do the registering with the state of California for the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And so anyway, Mr. Wobb said that they called them the Digger tribe.
Okay, wow, that's very fascinating. That's
I had
fascinating.
to find that out when they decided all to get what was the real name of the area. They found out that it was a derogatory term, just like, for other things that they used. So it was something because they didn't consider, my mother was not considered a native of this part of the world. She was born in 1902 in Pleasanton. Her mother, who was born in 1863, that was my grandmother. She was full-blooded. My mom was the first generation that had non-native in her. I'm the second generation. That's how close I am connected to a real native.
Right.
That's in, we were called Ohlones, and then mom called us after the Mission Indians, and she registered us on our birth certificate as Indians, and that was, the native people didn't do that because
Looks like we can have a whole program on this, Patricia. So
That's for sure. So thank you so much. I hope everybody enjoyed the presentations. I just wanted to repeat, to support the museum and the work that we're doing, if you could buy one of the, Kelsey's here. I didn't see Kelsey earlier. Kelsey, our president, is here. Hi, Kelsey. So if you wanted to, the books are $5 and will be open in another month if you want to, or you can order them online, or we want the word to be out there. You can go on any of the 3 websites and you can download pages or the whole book if you want for free. So we want the word out there. So you don't have to purchase one, but if you want to support the museum in another way, you might become a member or a member of one of the other organizations that I mentioned earlier.
I'll
So,
be a member because I want to buy a whole lot for my family.
right, I'll get them for you for sure.
Most of my grandkids are 40s and my oldest one is 50. My great grandkids are in the 20s and 30s already. So I've got a ton. So I will donate to my $5 for each copy that I buy.
Thank you so much. So I thank you all. It's almost 7:30. I don't quite have we have a few minutes yet. But I thank you for coming, and that's the conclusion of our presentation. Are there any more comments or suggestions? Also, one last thing, we hope to have another volume in the future of this booklet. And so if you have suggestions of people from the Tri-City area who we might include in the next booklet, please send it to info@museumoflocalhistory.org. And we'll be collecting that. We have a large list, but we'll collect more. And I've already got some other names that I've thought of, because unfortunately this year has not been we've had some people passing too that were great people, and it's always happening. So let us know. I thank you all for attending, and I hope you enjoyed it. And this is our first time that we've ever used this format. And so we'll try in the future to continue. Any comments?